Time is not on your side. It's not what you contrive. It's never more than a slide. It's you you're coming into. You're making it true. Whatever you seek will find you. You never are what you seem. You always are more than you dream, and it's all gonna end one day. Stream, yeah, it's all turning out that way. Coming into you. Coming into you. You're 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 coming into you now. Hi, and welcome to your Wednesday evening weirding session. I'm your host, C. Savory, creator of Fractal Praxis. That was a little ditty from the way back. Back when I was songwriting, between the ages of about, 16 and 26. And this song is an offering of Bliss. If you know me, you know that my sense of humor maps well to this song. It is a combination of a really deep spiritual yearning and affirmation that you can step forth a little bit more true. You can become more true to yourself. You can, and you are coming into yourself more fully. And you're fully seen and loved in this moment. You are further and more deeply linked to the fabric of the universe, and there is no dissonance. That's the message, right? You're coming into you. And then there's the crass and vulgar way to look at the phrase coming into you, which some of you may have also noticed. Coming as a slang term for ejaculation or orgasm. So when you're coming into somebody, you are inseminating them, in theory, with your life force energy, and you're creating a union, right? This quintessential idea of the lovers. So this coming into another person, but like in doing so creating a whole, a new being, a third being, whether that's a child or just the third being that is the relationship. So this play on words, I think at the time even that I wrote this song, I must have been about 25 or 26, it actually really made sense to me that this, even though it's crass, it's like this exploration of merging with the oneness that you know is possible within you, and coming more alive, evolving and emerging and merging with the universe. And this talk is all about joy, the ode to joy. And I want to talk about a specific type of bliss that has absolutely transformed my life and is a type of bliss that I center in everything I do. For the next 2 episodes, I'm going to try something dualistic. First, I'm going to shine the light that's possible with joy and with liberation. And then I'm going to follow it with a deep embracing of our damned, low, awful, horrible, depressed, anxious places. Because these two aspects of our existence play off of each other for our liberation. And when we really get comfortable with these breakthrough, breakdown processes, there's so much that our life has yet to show us and has yet to initiate us into. So, speaking of initiation, I want to share that when I was about 26, 27, I also recorded an electric album, under the name Clara Bland on Spotify. You can find it. The album is called Ha Oh. The concept of the album is that from the first song to the last song, we go through an emotional journey from like extreme elation and like, you know, the feeling like when you have a really tangible crush on somebody and you're just like in your own body, like feeling that. That's the start of the album. And the end of the album is like utter despair, betrayal, depression. So check it out. I'll link below. Clara is a name that I have used for my performance self, my performer self, my performance artist self, and I'm going to continue to use it. And what's handy about that is it all collapses under that letter C. So please check out the work of Clara and expect to see more of her too. The reason I'm sharing songs too as like kind of bookends to these 2 talks is because I've been getting good feedback about my voice, about singing, so I figured I would continue to make those offerings. So I hope you enjoyed that song. Yeah, so let's talk about bliss. Now, there's a type of bliss that I have been not chasing, but well, kind of chasing. Let's be honest. When I have been in some of my darkest moments, it's because I've been separated from a certain kind of bliss. I want to talk about the bliss of insight. The bliss of insight. When having a peak experience, when in that arising and passing away event, it is extraordinarily blissful. It is like feeling that all parts of you and everything in the universe is exactly where it needs to be in that moment, because it was all caused into being in just this way, and you're one. You are once again one with the universe. It's like dying, but while you're still alive, right? So you get to have this transcendent perspective, this experience, but you're still alive. You can integrate that, you can process that, you can offer that for the benefit of others, right? Anyway, so that's the transcendental experience. And I want to talk about how this bliss of insight, to me, insight is when a new idea or a new structuring of the information and ideas already contained within you arises such that you can just see things and categorize things in the world more effectively. And immediately there is a gain in terms of the efficiency with which one looks at the world and makes sense of it. That's a beautiful experience, and it breeds efficiency, actually, which is also something that life rewards. So just to put this into context, the reason insight is blissful and the reason that it rewards us with greater efficiency and greater effectiveness in our being in the world is because life wants it. Life itself benefits from this sense-making process that generates insights, right? So insights are something that life itself affirms. Life itself celebrates when we have insights. And I was 23 when this experience happened, and it absolutely changed the course of my life. You could, if you wanted to be cynical, you could look at it through the lens of addiction, and you could say that I became really focused on this kind of bliss, and I continued to seek it, and I continued to orient my life to it. And there's some truth to that. It doesn't have to be a cynical thing. The truth is I chose this life where by continuing to pursue this bliss of transcendental experience, this bliss of insight, this bliss of reunification, I became the person I am today. I became a person so devoted that it's next to impossible to make me do anything that is not meaningful. And instead I stand before you completely at risk, completely with no money in my bank account, standing in front of you as a minister, right? A person of service to the awakenings in others, and as a creator. And when I am in this persona, this modality, right? It's the most authentic possible thing. So I get to live in that place of harmony and unification, reunification, a lot. And I want to just share that and offer that with you, that this is a path, that this is something I've chosen and that I've reinforced with my choices. So insight. I'm such a sucker for insight bliss. I am enamored with insight. Even in my intimate, romantic relationships, I am oftentimes really focused on this question of what's more true? Who do you need to become? What is there in you? What potentials are in you to be cultivated? And I will really focus my attention there, because I love, just like an entrepreneur or just like a creator or an activist, I love making things happen. Not making them happen, that's too much effort. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I love stimulating things that want to happen to reach their fruition, right? I think all of us have the potential to liberate ourselves more through this path of insight or of transcendental bliss, however you want to think about it. And so I just am here to encourage and model that to us. It's yummy. It's the yummiest bliss ever. And frankly, Buddhism really helped me free myself from the samsara that's often talked about, where you get kind of stuck in the suffering and stuck in these cycles of running towards what you think you want and running away from what you think you don't want. When I am at my best, when I'm really in my practices, I am free. I'm more equanimous. I'm more in equanimity, and so I don't get so reactive. But this takes training. It takes discipline. And the way we do that is by focusing our attention. So when I'm sitting in Buddhist meditation for 5 minutes or for a 5-day silent retreat, I've done both of those recently, I am training my attention. And I think that the training of attention is so overlooked in this world today as an actual path to joy, happiness, liberation. We must train our attention, or else if we're not focused, we will never have insights, right? We will never actually be choosing to grapple with the sticky, wretched parts of our lives and of ourselves so that they actually transform into some greater understanding. When I was 23, because of other kind of virtues that I had cultivated, I think I was gifted, if you can call it that, with my first spiritual experience, my first spontaneous transcendental experience in which I felt unified with a different kind of mind, a whole different, everything looked different, literally, after this event. And it really felt like the prior 23 years up to that moment in my life was a dream. And that was the only true thing that had ever happened to me, right? So it was profoundly disruptive to my sense of self, to where I was going with my life, to everything, frankly. But I made a choice to believe in that experience and to validate it with my own existence and to say that really happened and there must be something there. And so I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to dedicate myself to, at the time it was the Buddhist path that was revealed to me as the one that could really actually respond to that experience and like understood and could help me integrate that experience. I was going to devote to the path, and that was that. I was going to live my life as though that thing that happened to me was true. The next year and 9 months of my life were horrible. Some of the worst time of my entire life. I was in what they call a dark night of the soul because I knew there was something more, but I couldn't access it again. At the time, I believe the event was partly triggered by this person who I was in intimate friendship with, who was a very serious Buddhist practitioner and had been for about 5 or 6 years at that point, meditating for an hour every day, kind of serious, and really devoted to it. And so after my spontaneous experience, I sat with him and he helped contextualize what had happened in terms of Buddhist consciousness evolution, like understandings, which really gave me some really critical supports in the moments after the event. And some of the language that I was introduced to, I want to share with you. So there's this phrase, stream entry, which is the idea of breaking through into a kind of total stream or total flow of energy and information into the universe, which is very much descriptive of what happened to me at that first spiritual experience. And I also reference stream in the song Coming Into You, stream entry. Stream entry is a phenomenal experience. It happens to people. It also cannot be caused, like it not directly anyway. It has to kind of just arise. And this leads into another idea, which is this kind of, for me, I saw it as like a triangle of the peak experience. Let's say that's the top of the triangle. That is called the arising and passing away event. It arises and it passes away, but it also transcends everything. So that's one label for that kind of experience, for a peak experience. Then you have the dark night of the soul, which comes immediately after, because you lose, at least for the moment, you lose access to that place of unity and glory, and you're in the muck with your own habits and your own beliefs and your own garbage that you've accumulated over this lifetime, and all this conditioning and all these crappy, leadership models and belief systems that you've inherited, and just it's wretched. It's wretched, and I've been there. I have been there so hard. So that's the dark night of the soul that typically comes after. If you ever try to go directly from the dark night of the soul back to the peak experience, it doesn't work. It only deepens your dark night of the soul. What one needs to cultivate, that is the third piece of the triangle, what one needs to cultivate is equanimity. Equanimity is this beautiful gift that I received from Buddhism. It's this understanding that everything is going to stimulate us, positively or negatively. when we can actually practice equanimity, which is like a kind of equality of response to the moment, and just taking it all in stride, not getting stirred up by the fleeting, events, the desires, the aversions, but just staying relatively steady amidst the swirl of existence. In that place of equanimity, there is a kind of peacefulness, but it's also a discipline. It doesn't come easily. It takes some effort. But when you finally have inhabited that place of equanimity, lo and behold, along comes another arising and passing away event. So I was trained at the time and still to this day really see it as like a cycle. And when we cultivate this cycle, it actually becomes a part of our liberation as people and our liberation into greater cultural and maybe even social structures and understandings that really liberate our potential as beings, as people, as societies. And so one thing I really want to emphasize here is that we do select for the potentials we sponsor with our attention, right? So we are full of potentials in any given moment. What we put our attention on and how we leverage that attention is a sponsorship of what is to come next. It's a sponsorship of certain patterns over others. And we select for the patterns in our lives through this kind of often unconscious, passive pruning process. And so part of liberation is to gain more and more agency over one's attention so that one begins to curate the patterns present in one's life, right? We curate who we are by deciding what we reflect back to the world. And what I invoke for you at this moment is that you find a little bit more of bliss that feels like insight, that tickle of, oh, there's something more here. Oh, there's something for me here. Oh, if I were to turn this corner, what would I see, right? I invoke for you the joy of this universe trying to tell you things, right? Trying to help you see, giving you feedback, giving you experiences that are dense with feedback, that if you orient to it in respectful interest, it might reveal itself to you in a way that is, wow, I never saw it that way. Wow, I never knew myself that way until this moment, this encounter with wonder, this encounter with the brilliance and the collective intelligence of this universe, this encounter with my own inner nature and inner intelligence and inner guru. So I invoke for you that in these moments following this talk, that you follow your bliss and that you notice what kind of bliss is it. And if possible, maybe, this I invoke. I can't make it happen, but I can invoke it. You look for the bliss of an insight ready to be had, which often comes along with tears, ecstasy, peace, harmony, and great pleasure at being. Because being and living are basically good. And I am so glad that you will remember this and attune to this. Thank you so much for watching and for receiving this talk. Now is the time in the talk when we pass the proverbial basket. If you'd like to support the work of Fractal Praxis, please give a donation using the link in the description below, or especially consider becoming a Fractal Praxis member where you can deepen into some of these practices in fellow community. In closing, merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again.